Okay, so let's talk about feeding, fasting, health, and performance. And I want to just establish a few foundational terms so that we're all on the same page. First of all, rather than talk about fasting or time-restricted feeding, I'm largely going to talk about time-restricted feeding. But please understand that time-restricted feeding is just one side of the coin that is a two-sided coin that includes fasting on the one hand, not eating, and time-restricted feeding on the other hand. I may occasionally say fasting, but because fasting and eating establish different biological conditions in the body, time-restricted feeding is the term that I will use to describe the overall plan of restricting one's eating window, as it's called, to a particular phase of each 24-hour day, or in some cases, to particular days within the week, because as you'll soon learn, there are aspects of time-restricted feeding, aka fasting, that involve eating every other day or eating one way for 5 days and then fasting for 2 days and so forth. So I'll be very precise about what I mean and why I mean it, but for the time being, I'm going to refer to time-restricted feeding as a way to put an umbrella over this conversation. Second of all, I am going to emphasize a lot of biological mechanism. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I always begin with biological mechanism. I do describe tools of how to implement those mechanisms, but I wholeheartedly believe that knowing mechanisms and understanding how these processes work gives you tremendous flexibility and understanding and control over the processes of your mental and physical health. Whereas if I were to just list off a menu of things to do and not to do, those will work, but those will not give you the kind of understanding that would allow you to navigate through life, through travel, through dinners out, through different exercise schedules, whether or not you're one age or another age, male, female, etc. I'm giving you mechanisms so that you can gain more control over the systems in your brain and body. Everything's timestamped, so if you want to jump to the to-dos, you can certainly do that. But I encourage you to hang in there for the mechanism bit. I will make it all very clear, because if you understand mechanism, you are in a true place of power and control over your biology.